I'm back here with you today to continue with our syllabus that we could not complete. So our today's session is on two topics that we could not cover on our previous lessons. The lesson is under contemporary economic issues, and topics to be covered are tourism as well as environmental sustainability. We will simply break down both of these topics and provide you the relevant content that is necessary so that we expand opportunities for you to choose wisely as we are going for your examination. I'm Mr. Mhloko. Remember that economic issues are the part of paper 2. So this content we are covering today can be discovered in paper 2, your section A, section B, and section C. In section B, you can come across these questions or these topics in question 3 and also as a part of question 4, as well as in section C, which is question number 6. So the tourism, I know we have done the chapter and the topic. Some of you are doing tourism as a subject, so it becomes easier for you to take care of the topic in economics. If we talk about tourism as a topic or subtopic in economics under economic issues, we are referring to this industry that is growing very, very quick in South Africa. We are talking about this industry that has been creating much of job opportunities in South Africa, compensating the failure of manufacturing sector, because we have noticed that manufacturing sector is not doing enough, but tourism activities are increasing. As they increase, they seem to encourage manufacturing sector to function as it produces more goods and supply to those tourism activities. So tourism as a topic, the main concern on the tourism is, firstly, we focus on description and explaining the concept of tourism, for which we mainly say it occurs when an individual or a person or a tourist leave the usual place or usual area to an unusual place for various reasons, for not more than a period of 1 year. We can regard that as a tourism. Also, for us to regard an activity as a tourism, it means one should not be expecting any payment or remuneration during the journey or during the tour that has been taken. It does not accommodate payments or remunerations. Also, one should be traveling more than 160 kilometers from usual place to unusual place. Then we can regard that as tourism. And then we talk about reasons why does the tourism industry grow like this in the entire world. I will make an example about South Africa. The tourism industry is growing rapidly. We have seen that. It is because of increased marketing. It's being well marketed globally. It is easy for people to discover different attractions and promotions and some accommodations and attractions. Also, because of the increased disposable income, some people are earning more money and it becomes very much good for them to travel and explore the world. Less working hours, as people are spending less hours at work, some are working even from home. It's easy for them to take more time and travel and explore the beauty of the country and the beauty of the world. The good political climate. For instance, in South Africa, we are facing this good political climate to the point that people are free to travel from one place to another without any restrictions or conditions. So that have made the industry to grow easily. Advertising and promotions, including marketing, it's very, very high. So that have led to the growth in the industry, because now these attractions that are created in various areas within the country are well marketed. So people are well informed about their existence. That attract the attention of tourists to move to those areas and simply explore. So that will be discussed. Then we'll be talking about also the benefits of tourism. Now the tourism is in place. What are the benefits of tourism based on employment, how does it affect employment? We know that tourism is labor intensive. And then how does it affect the infrastructure development? How does it affect the government, etc.? We'll also talk about the effects of tourism. How does tourism affect some various economic components? We talk about GDP. How does it affect GDP? That will be discussed. Also, how does tourism affect investments? And then we talk about also externalities. Be aware of the following. As much as tourism can be good, but also it has some effects, especially on the environmental stress, because as much as people, number of people is increasing in a particular destination or attraction, that puts or that leads to environmental stress to the point that the place becomes under pressure, and then environment can lose its present value because of that. And then we'll also look at the indigenous knowledge system in there. How does it promote tourism? And then we'll move straight to environmental sustainability. The very much interesting topic for it, but some people are not interested in it. It's a very simple and clear topic that we just have to indulge and enjoy it. It's all about taking care of the environment, keeping it at the present value, and protecting it from harm, so that even the future generation can enjoy the benefits that are provided by the environment to us if it's well sustained. We'll talk about the concept, and then we'll talk about the state of the environment with those types of pollution that occur in the environment which result to environmental degradation. Talk about deforestation, desertification, erosion, the climate change and their effects. And then we'll talk about the market. Why does the market fail to ensure that environment is well sustained? We know that the market is profit motive. It sees environment as a common resource that can be used to generate revenues and the profit. So it will always be difficult for the market to take good measures to protect the environment, because as they do so, they will either have to adopt the new technology which is much expensive for them, that is eco-friendly, or else they will be compromising their profits, because as they produce less pollution, that means they are producing less goods and services if they are using machines that are burning fossil fuels. And then we will talk about the technology itself. How can it be used as a solution? Because the technology can be a problem to environmental issues. How can we use it as a solution to the issue of poor environmental management? That's when now businesses or the market adopt eco-friendly machines and equipment that can be used to produce more goods and services without compromising the present state of the environment. Then we'll also talk about the state intervention or government intervention to ensure sustainable development. How can the government intervene to ensure that environment is well sustained as much as economy have to increase? Then that will be discussed also. It's an essay. Be aware of that. It will be a detailed discussion. And then we'll also talk about environmental problems or international problems, I mean. In that case, we talk about loss of biodiversity, hazardous waste, etc. And then we'll talk about international agreement that were agreed upon by different world countries to ensure the safe and well-sustained environment. So that's our lesson. It will be a very long lesson, but I believe we'll be able to cover it all from the beginning to the end. Just to remind you of something, this lesson consists of 4 essays. Those essays are from tourism, 2 of them, benefits of tourism as well as effects of tourism. Those are 2 essays. And then in the last topic, we have also 2 essays, state intervention as well as international problems. So we have 4 essays within this topic. Remember, under economic issues, you still have 2 essays that were on inflation. So that means you will be having 6 essays, and one of them will appear in the examination, but that will be discussed later. The tourism. So the concept of tourism. So I've already said that tourism occurs when individuals travel from their usual places to unusual places for various reasons for the period of not more than a year. So reasons can be because one is traveling for the business purpose, the culture, leisure, adventure, etc. So we know that, like I've also mentioned, that tourism is one of the growing industries in the world due to marketing have increased and the disposable income for people is increasing. Also, because of international freedom, people are free to travel from one country to another without some restriction that might be imposed by governments. Tourism becomes a source of income for economic stakeholders such as households, businesses, and the government. People get to be employed through tourism. People get to start their very own businesses, informal businesses, because of tourism. So that they do the poverty relief. Businesses get to produce more goods and services because of tourism. As they produce more goods and services, what happens? They receive more revenues. And some of them are getting some projects from the government through public-private partnerships, whereby the government joins forces with the private sector, maybe under infrastructure development, etc. Some businesses find themselves growing faster under accommodation facilities. Fast food restaurants are also a part of it in terms of businesses. The government receives more revenues because of more tourists flowing within the country. Foreign tourists, as they flow into the country, what happens? The foreign currency is earned by the state. So in South Africa, we've had one biggest event, which is known to be the international event, which was World Cup in 2010. And because of that, we recorded high number of inbound tourists. Remember, it happens when foreign tourists tour into the country, while local tourists are not moving out of the country the most. The international events contribute the most to the growth in international tourism. These conferences that are held from country to country result to the growth in international tourism across the world. Tourism activities. So in this case, we simply indicate that an activity will be regarded as a part of tourism if there is a purpose for the visit or activity by the tourist. There is no payment or remuneration or money expected to be received through that particular activity. A person will be spending a minimum of 1 night. The minimum in terms of the length for the minimum should be at least 1 night. The maximum length of stay should be 1 year or not more than 1 year. There is a traveling distance of more than 160 kilometers. Then we can regard that activity as tourism. The types of tourism as they come. We have leisure or recreation tourism, cultural tourism, ecotourism, business or professional tourism, adventure tourism, paleo tourism, and other types of tourism. So they will be briefly explained so that if you come across one of them, maybe in your section A or section B data response, you must be able to answer, or section B, those open questions for 8 marks, or even if one of them come as a additional part of your essay, it should be easy for you to attack or attend into that particular question. Leisure and recreational. The tourism, tourists come to South Africa on a holiday to play sport, to visit friends, and to see tourist attractions. But mainly it's not only about South Africa. It also occurs when South African tourists are floating within the country, are visiting some destinations within the country with the purpose of doing what? Of playing sport, visiting friends, and see some attractions. That is regarded to be a leisure tourism. This is an image indicating that you can see there just about leisure and spending their very own time in these beautiful areas or places. We continue with the types. Ecotourism. As for ecotourism, it's all about a tourist traveling from one place to another just to observe the beauty of nature. So tourism where people visit places where they can experience the diverse natural beauty of a country. Visiting natural areas, also underwater, wilderness areas, Drakensberg Mountain, scenic attractions, flora and fauna, vegetation, forest, and wildlife. Enjoying the climate, sunshine, the sea, a river or lake. This is regarded as the fastest growing segment of the tourist industry. There you see the beauty of nature. One can tour to the place just to observe this. You can see waterfall in there. It's a part of the ecotourism. As we continue, cultural tourism. This one seemed okay, is it? When people travel from their usual places to unusual places, just to observe the cultural diversity of the country. So tourists come to visit museums and art galleries, e.g. Robben Island and Apartheid Museum. Tourism, where visitors are given an opportunity to experience cultural and traditional community life of the country inhabitants. So attending festivals, sport events, and cultural events, religious events, and also dancing. So these are the part or examples of cultural tourism. In South Africa, we come across that mostly in September month, where we have our Heritage Month. Business tourism, that's when people travel from one place to another for business purposes, where they have some meetings or conferences in various places. Travel to a country for business purpose, attending meetings, exhibitions, and conferences, participating in missions, e.g. investigating housing in an area, incentive visit, travel, agents that are invited to experience a resort, visiting factories, and business for learning and information. That is a part of business tourism. So it's mainly about tourists traveling from their places to unusual places for the sake of business. Anything relating to the business can be regarded as a part of business tourism if ever a person have traveled from usual place, meeting those conditions for the activity to be regarded as tourism. Paleo tourism. So tourism where tourists visit the site of ecological significance such as the Camel Caves at Austria. Adventure tourism. This has to do with outings of specific adventurers like mountain hiking, etc. So that is known to be adventurous tourism. So we also classify tourism. We don't have to confuse this. We have types of tourism and the classification. So we have the domestic, the inbound, the outbound, internal, as well as international. With the domestic tourism, that's when tourists travel within their own regions. Meaning they are not traveling beyond the country, they are not traveling beyond the province. They travel within their very own regions. And then inbound tourism. That's when foreign tourists travel to the country or to South Africa. Foreign tourists are traveling to South Africa, like what I spoke about, which happened during 2010 Soccer World Cup. Most of tourists were traveling into South Africa and most of us were based in the country. Outbound tourism, that's when South Africans are traveling beyond South African borders. And then internal tourism, that's when South Africans are traveling within the country, but beyond their provinces, meaning one can leave his or her own province to another province. So that simply means it's internal tourism, whereby people are floating within the country, visiting various destinations for different purposes. International tourism, this one simply occurs when tourists travel beyond the borders of the country. How so? Some are leaving the country for some purposes, some are entering the country. So there is simply an ending movement between foreign tourists and local tourists. Local are leaving, foreign are coming in. That is believed to be an international tourism. So how do you measure tourism? So quantitative statistics such as the number of arrivals and overnight stays are used to indicate the scope of growth of tourism industry. So the following are the measures that are used or indicators. The volume. This talk about incidence of domestic travel and how many trips are taken. So focus on trips number of trips that have been taken. That's a volume. And then the value. It's all about the amount spent annually by domestic tourists. So how much money was spent, that talks to the value by domestic tourists. And then number of nights or number of bed nights. The number of nights spent in various establishments. Meaning, now in this case we look at how many nights were spent in those attractions that are available or those establishments that are available in different places. We talk about those accommodations, etc. Provincial distribution. This one is more about distribution of volume and the value as well as bed nights between 9 provinces. These are simply measures of tourism. Seasonal. In this case, we are simply talking about times of the year where people travel the most. So we know that most travelers enjoy traveling during summer. So seasonally, we look at that, which is the season or the time of the year where tourists are really moving across, traveling within the country and outside, some are coming into the country. So that's a seasonal part of measuring tourism. Reasons for growth in tourism industry. Spoke about this increasing in the disposable income. As the income for people increases, they tend to have an opportunity to spend on their basic for their lives, and then after that they can explore. So there is a worldwide tendency of growth in income levels and disposable income of the household. So individuals have more leisure time and money to travel. This has caused an increase in demand for traveling for tourism purposes. Because of more income people are earning lately, they plan and decide to tour or to travel to different destinations or places or countries. So, money will make people not stay in one place. They will always be flexible. They will always be moving because money should be spent. So we know people, if ever people are having money, they are always tempted to spend. And tourism is one of those industries where people want to spend their money on. Reduction of working hours. So this leaves people with more time to spend, which is more about leisure time. So that results to them planning outgoings, etc. So that leads to more tourism because people are having enough time for relaxation. Then we continue with the growth, improve political climate. So with the political climate in the world being improved, there's a freedom across. So people find it easy to travel from one country to another of their choice. Because of the political history of South Africa, a large part of the population did not have access to travel and tourism in the country in the past. Since 1994, the previously disadvantaged people have also become tourists and travelers. The peaceful transformation in the country and the lifting of sanctions has led to a tourist boom in South Africa. So since 1994, we have seen the growth of the industry, whereby people now are free to travel and visit any place in the country without any restrictions or sanctions imposed. We continue increasing economic activities. We have seen the most economic activities. There is so much movement of people for business purposes from one country to another, from one province to another, from one place or region to another. An increase in economic activity in South Africa has led to businessmen traveling between countries more regularly for the sake of business purposes. There's also been an increase in business conferences and trade fairs across the world. We know that South Africa happens to hold African conferences based on businesses. The last one was held in Durban. So those are reasons for the growth in tourism. Based on businesses and economic activities, people can travel from one place to another, one country to another for the sake of businesses. South Africa has outstanding conference and vacation centers as well as exhibition, sporting and medical facilities. South Africa has become a major business center for the rest of African continent. That's why we come across the growth in tourism industry, basically on business purposes. Improved transport services or facilities as well as infrastructure. We know that if ever the infrastructure becomes more developed and modernized, that leads to tourism growing because tourism is more dependent on availability of the infrastructure. If the government cannot improve the infrastructure that is available, it will always be difficult for the tourism industry to grow. Better, cheaper and more diverse transport facilities make it easy for tourists to travel. Roads and travel agencies throughout the country have improved. So that have led to the growth in tourism industry in South Africa. Lots of resources have been devoted to the upgrading of airport, local transport infrastructure and hotels, aimed mainly at international tourist market. So the improvement of the transport infrastructure have led to the growth in tourism industry. Tourists are finding it easy to travel from one place to another as they reach a particular area or region or particular country. They find it easy to travel and visit various attractions that are around. So the infrastructure plays a very, very important part on promoting tourism industry in the world and South Africa. The international flights are becoming more regular and more affordable. We continue the development of communication and media technology. We know that communication is very much important for the growth of tourism. If ever communication is not developed as a part of the infrastructure, it will be difficult for tourism to grow because people normally book for their visiting online. They use technology, so it is very important to ensure that the technology that we use in the country is at the world standard, allowing people to interact with one another from the distance and from even other countries. So the growth of communication and technology have made it easy for the growth of what you call the tourism industry in the world and in South Africa as a country. The constant development of in media technology such as television, smartphones, the internet and social media brings the world closer to the better informed customers, creating new opportunities for the industry. This technology allows any family in any country in the world to explore tourist destinations, so it becomes easy for them to explore and create a desire to visit. This marketing and advertising that is done via technology and communication, so it becomes easier for people to notice those attractions and make a desire or decision to tour in those destinations. Because people are more aware of opportunities in other countries, they will visit those countries more often and to satisfy their leisure needs. People are able to arrange all aspects of their travels through the internet. So it becomes easy for them to make bookings over the internet, including advertising and promotion. Through advertising, people are made aware of travel destinations. So with advertising, promotion and marketing, it becomes easy for people to maybe get awareness of various destinations in the country, various accommodations, as well as attractions that are available in the country. So that is because of marketing, advertising, and promotion that are done regularly via the internet and communication. Improved marketing opportunities have led to increase in cultural, eco, and value tourism. For example, advertisements in printed media and travel programs on television encourage people to travel to popular destinations. Governments of many developing countries have targeted the tourism sector as possible alternative, low-cost source of growth. So with the tourism, the government should just provide the infrastructure, then the tourism will grow on its own. So that allows tourism to grow rapidly. They are doing this to compensate the decline in the agricultural and manufacturing sectors in their countries. We know that in the agricultural sector has been declining rapidly because of the climate change. Manufacturing sector has not been doing well. But the growth of tourism now is the one that is used to compensate the failure of these other sectors within the economy. Because tourism activities are increasing rapidly within the world and within South Africa as a country. That can be used to compensate the failure of other sectors within the economy. Then this is the graph that indicates the contribution of tourism in South Africa over the past years. From 2005 to 2020, I will simply highlight the lowest and the highest. So which, if we check 2006, we recorded 8.4 growth percent in tourism industry, so it contributed the most. And then we check in 2020, we recorded about 3.7% growth in tourism industry. What are that supposed to mean? That means tourism activities declined rapidly in 2020 because we know because of COVID-19 we had an issue of hard lockdown that did not allow anyone to travel from one country to another, from even one province to another. There were so many restrictions that were imposed by the government to regulate movement of people because they were avoiding the spread of COVID-19. So these have led to most of tourism activities being sidelined. That's why we see 2020 with the lowest growth in tourism industry. You need to know this information because, like in the preparatory examination paper 2, there was a question about the effect of COVID-19 to the tourism industry. So it's very important that you become familiar with these kinds of incidents so that if ever the examiner decides to ask you that particular question, we are able to answer. Also, you need to relate situations. Relate situations don't depend on the content. Let the content open your mind. As your mind gets to be opened by the content, you can relate any situation that have happened or that is happening in the world based on the concept of tourism. So these are the effects of tourism. Remember, I said it's an essay. Effects of tourism on the following: GDP, employment, poverty, externalities, environment, investment. So let's simply go through them. So we know tourism has various effects economically, social, and environmental. Economically, we will always face the growth in economy because as tourists tour into the country or within the country, they will always be spending and disposable income flowing around, and that will lead to what? That will encourage people under what we call hotel industry to establish more hotels, and they will have more income received. That will encourage businesses to produce more goods themselves because tourists will be in need of more goods and services. Also, it can lead to environmental being conserved and preserved for the sake of tourists. So there are some effects really rather than also some effects are negative environmentally because we know that tourists will always leave some carbon footprints within the environment. The increase in tourism activities affect the economy, the society, and the environment itself. And then tourism is the industry which is believed to be having the most positive effects. However, it does have some negative effect. Like I've said, that it will always lead to people living there, carbon footprint, it will lead to pollution and littering. It can also result to crime or increase in criminal activities in some areas because of congestion or increase in number of people. It can lead to environmental stress if ever people are increasing rapidly in one place that have less capacity people to accommodate. It has a positive impact on GDP, poverty relief, employment, creation of infrastructure development, increase in investment, and the biodiversity. So I will talk about the infrastructure. If ever tourism is growing in the country, that simply encourage or enforce the government to improve the infrastructure so that activities can keep on growing. So it is having some effect that will be discussed. And then also the biodiversity, our flora and fauna, plants, animals, or species or living and non-living things are well maintained for the sake of tourists. Some of them are made tourism attractions. So it is very important that the tourism industry have some sustainability side on them, because we sustain some resources and preserve some of them for the sake of tourism because they become attractions. The gross domestic product. Tourism has the biggest impact on the service industry. We know that mostly service industry contribute about 63% in South African economic growth. Indirect contribution. Tourism is a service-based industry. It is responsible for 65% of GDP in developed countries and 40% in developing countries. So direct contribution, tourism contributes about 7.9% of GDP in South Africa compared to 12% worldwide. That means it has a huge contribution in GDP in South Africa. The tourism industry impacts more on service industry than on agriculture or manufacturing. Yes, because it's more about offering services. Although there are upstream effects, for example, agriculture provides food, so we know that there are some spillover effects. As tourism increases, it pushes agriculture to provide more food. And as tourism increases, it pushes manufacturing side to provide more goods and services. And tourism will therefore affect GDP both directly and indirectly. We continue. Indirect contribution. Tourism is a service-based industry and has been partly responsible for service sector growth in South Africa over the recent years. So the increase in service sector have a certain part of the tourism being involved. In developing economies, the sector is responsible for around 40% of GDP, while it is responsible for more than 65% of GDP in developed countries. In South Africa, it is similar to that of developed countries. Services contributed about 67% in 2011. So that's a huge impact of tourism. And then direct contribution. To really plan for economic development for tourism sector, it is important to know amount of total direct contribution in the economy. So it is very much necessary. So stats show that in 2010, inbound tourists contributed about 69 billion rand, and domestic tourists contributed about 99 billion, amounting in 168 billion. This is about 3% of South Africa's GDP. In the direct contribution is, if the direct contribution is added to 7, it becomes 7% in terms of GDP contributed by tourism industry across. So tourism employs, and then underemployment now. Tourism employs about 7% of South African people. So we know that tourism creates most of immediate employment, and it's also labor intensive. So people get much jobs within the tourism industry. So tourism is the largest provider of jobs because it is labor intensive. It employs most people than employing machines. It employs many different kinds of labor. So the various skills are employed in the tourism. It does not depend on one particular skill. So also it can employ skilled labor, semi-skilled and non-skilled labor. It also has this positive effect of employing people, and then they get training on duty, so it becomes easy. So what you call unemployment can be reduced easily because of the growth of tourism industry. It provides immediate employment and then provides entrepreneurial opportunities. Tourism is the largest earner of foreign exchange because foreign tourists pay for services in their foreign currencies, and then foreign tourists usually spend more than local tourists. That was employment. And then poverty. How does tourism contribute to poverty? We know that as the tourism industry grows, what happens? The poverty will be relieved because people get opportunities to start their very own informal businesses, and also people get to be employed. Remember, we talk about the fact that most of tourism attractions are located in rural areas which are marginalized. So those attractions that are located in there also attract some businesses to come around. Accommodation, restaurants, hotels will always be located around there in those attractions. They lead to people of the area getting job opportunities. As they get job opportunities, there will be earning income that will assist them to afford their basic needs. Some will be starting informal businesses and sell within those areas. Some will become businesses that will form partnerships with local formal businesses, as they will be distributing their goods and services. We talk about craft work can be distributed by the local formal business for the person that is from the community that is having a business that is not registered. So it becomes easy for them to relieve poverty because of the growth in tourism. Tourism is a fast and effective mechanism for distributing resources to rural areas and develop them as tourist sites. Many prime tourist attractions are located in rural or neglected areas. Tourism development in rural areas increased the number of available job opportunities in areas where there were no jobs. We know that with tourism attractions being located in those areas, job opportunities will be created and economic activity will start to increase because of those attractions being located in those areas that were neglected. Tourism promotes a balanced and sustainable form of development. So the development does not only take place in urban areas, it also takes place in those areas that are believed to be rural areas that were neglected because of the growth in tourism. And then people are able to earn a living in their home areas, resulting in the reduction of urbanization. As much as tourism grows in those neglected areas, the urbanization level will be declining, having people deciding to settle in their very own areas because they are able to earn living within their very own areas. So that's the effect. So they will be able to alleviate poverty with the income they earn in those areas. We continue. It allows rural people to share in the benefits of tourism, promoting a more balanced and sustainable form of development. Tourism provides alternative to urbanization, permitting people to continue in a rural family lifestyle, empowering both women and the youth. Tourism offers opportunities to diversify sources of income for poor. So the poor people are able to what? To get or to earn income in various places from various forms. So it allows really people to be improved because skills development are also the part of tourism. People will be improved and become better to earn income, and then they can be able to alleviate poverty. We continue allowing them to have a stake. So they start and operate small-scale tourism businesses. They start their own small business within the area. By doing so, they have a share over the growth of the tourism industry because they benefit through that tourism industry. So if ever in a particular area there are some attractions that have been developed, what happens? People of the area will start their very own informal businesses and open the informal market around the area that allow them a stake in them, empowering them. So the training goes on within the local communities. Skills and training programs are open for people to be able to take care of tourists, to be able to take care of the environment, etc. That give them an opportunity to be empowered. Also creating partnerships. Local people are also able to do what? To supply their very own product to formal businesses. So that allow them to create partnerships with existing local businesses that are formal, whereby now their goods can be promoted and they can be well known even globally because of the international tourism. Externalities. We know that we always have both negative and positive. So with the tourism industry, it is having both negative externalities as well as positive externalities. There are some very much good effects of tourism, whereby we talk about job creation or job opportunities being created, improvement of the infrastructure, earning most of the foreign currency, sustaining the environment and natural resources, keeping our history healthy, so that we can keep those areas as part of what we call as attraction, like Robben Island. So externalities can be defined, we know, as cost or benefit that spill over into the second or third party, and then activities that are not reflected on the actual prices or transactions. While tourism attracts large amount of revenue, it can also cause undue environment damage. We know that it can also have a negative effect to the environment as a part of negative externalities. Like I've spoken about this before, to say if ever people are increasing largely in one place in a short period of time, there can be environmental stress. Some people litter in the environment, some leave their carbon footprint. Rapid growth in tourism aiming at short-term benefits usually result in more negative than positive externalities. These include degradation of traditions and cultural values and environmental damage to sites and natural areas. So the positive externalities, tourism lead to, attract most of revenues or more amount of revenues for the country, lead to improvement of the infrastructure development. It can stimulate employment indirectly, can help conserve natural resources and natural assets, is like I've spoken about that, alleviate poverty, but needs to be carefully planned. So these are some positive effects of tourism that are believed to be positive externalities. Negative externalities, and then tourism can cause environmental damage if it's not well managed. Tourism can result in a lot of waste, insensitive tourist sites, and then also the infrastructure at tourist sites can come under pressure to cater for increased number of tourists. So if ever people are flowing into one place in large numbers, the place can be under pressure that can create environmental stress. Tourism can lead to increased prices for local. If ever the place is regarded to be a tourism destination, what happens? There will be a higher demand for goods, and then businesses will be accommodating themselves by increasing the selling prices, which will also affect local people that are not tourists in the area, but they are mainly people that are staying in the area regularly. So they get to be affected because they pay more in that area for prices of goods and services, because the area is regarded to be a popular destination for tourists. Environment. Tourism can create environmental stress. It can result in the following: permanent restructuring of the landscape. For instance, if ever there's a construction site going on in a particular area, there should be deforestation. Trees should be removed permanently to ensure that road infrastructure is improved, hotels are improved. So that can lead to permanent restructuring of the landscape. Additional waste products. So the waste will increase because of the increasing number of people touring or visiting the particular area. And then impact on population dynamics, e.g. migration and changes in population density in response to the needs of the tourist site. The investment. How does tourism affect the investment? There are so much opportunities that are initiated under investment because of the increase in tourism industry. We talk about the transport infrastructure, where we refer to improve in roads that are needed to access tourist sites. Also communication infrastructure, e.g. hotels need telephone lines to take bookings at tourist sites. Energy infrastructure, tourists need electricity at tourist sites. Basic services, clean water and refuse removal. There are so many points that we can talk about here under investment. Even businesses get an opportunity to establish hotels. They get opportunities to start some restaurants in some areas because they are believed to be tourist attractions. And then also the same investment on the area creating a tourism or a tourist attraction is a part of the investment. So there is a much impact. The government can invest socially and economically. There will be improvement of the physical infrastructure. Hospitals can be built, clinics can be built, because tourists need to access healthcare in the particular area. The benefits of tourism. So we know that there are some great benefits for tourism. Let's check. South Africa benefit directly from tourism because of the growth in the GDP, employment creation, infrastructure development, and welfare gain. All all economic stakeholders are beneficiaries on the tourism, on the growth of tourism industry. So tourists spend money as they travel. This becomes a greater motive for business to produce even more goods and services. So business can be able to earn more revenues from because of the growth in tourism. Infrastructural projects created through public-private partnership benefit businesses and the government. We know that triple Ps are formed, whereby the government want to improve the infrastructure for the sake of tourism development, and then businesses will become beneficiaries in there to cooperate with the government. They will be improving infrastructure on behalf of the government while the government is providing financial resources. Tax revenues, employment created by tourism improve social and economic welfare. We know that the state earns more revenues from tourism, and that will always lead to more redistribution of income and wealth. Also, we talk about employment created. It leads to people living beyond poverty. So, how do households benefit from tourism? We know that households are one of beneficiaries from tourism. People can get jobs within the area. There will be immediate employment, regardless of the level of skill people are possessing. It can also lead to improvement of the infrastructure within the area, resulting to local people benefiting from that particular infrastructure, because as much as it is made available, it benefits both tourists and local people. So tourism industry is labor intensive. It employs all levels of skills, namely skilled, semi-skilled, and non-skilled labor. Households get direct jobs through tourism in hotel and accommodation, infrastructure development projects, self-employment, tour guides, etc. So people get some opportunities in there under tourism that benefit them to earn more disposable income. This generates income for households and contribute to poverty, contribute positively to increased demand. So they will be able to demand more goods and services, which will alleviate poverty within the community or society. We continue with the household. Most of the infrastructure created for tourists is also available for local people, so they benefit by using that particular infrastructure. It is not only made for tourists. That includes the likes of roads, hotels, stadiums, etc. They are created because of a particular international event. But then after the event have been finished, what will happen? That will lead to local people benefiting. We have seen stadiums and roads that were built during the World Cup in 2010 are still remaining for us as South African people. We are benefiting. Tourism is a great mechanism for skill development. That simply means people are able to acquire skills for their own duty, so they can get variety of skills within the industry and become even more marketable. It requires variety of skill for which education and training is needed. Local people acquire variety of skills which include interpersonal skills, conservation and preservation skills, martial or tour guide skills, etc. I will focus on this. Local people get an awareness on how they can take care of the environment. They can simply be taught skills of conservation and preservation, especially if they are around nature reserves and game reserves. That is good for the sake of the environment. Income earned by household in tourism industry reduces the level of poverty and improves standard of living. We know as they receive income, they will be able to escape poverty. We continue. Businesses, how do they benefit? Infrastructure becomes a critical facilities to benefit businesses. As the government provides the infrastructure to improve tourism industry, businesses become regular beneficiaries because they need this infrastructure for them to improve. If we talk about road infrastructure, it's very much important. The communication infrastructure is very much important because now, as communication get to be improved, business will find simple means to do their own businesses. Superstructure consists of businesses that provide accommodation, transport, build attraction, retaining, and recreation services. This superstructure becomes a source of profit for businesses. So if we talk about the superstructure, we talk about those structures that are created by businesses as a form of investment. So they benefit through that. Tourism can lead to them building hotels in a particular area. That one alone is very much important because as tourists join to the area, there must be accommodation. So businesses get opportunities to establish some hotels for tourists that we call accommodations. Attractions can be built also. As attractions are built by businesses in those areas, that becomes a business opportunity for them because they keep on earning income through those attractions created for the sake of the growth of tourism industry. Businesses benefit through public-private partnerships. Triple Ps are formed. I've been talking about this, whereby private sector join forces with the government, whereby the government provide financial resources to the business and the business get the job done on behalf of the government. So that creates a business opportunity for private sector. The public sector provides a range of financial incentives to private sector tourism investment, which include subsidies, loans, tax concessions. And then businesses continue. How do they benefit? So the tourism stimulates the business environment and help achieve certain socio-economic objectives such as development of entrepreneurs, triple B and SMMEs. We come across small entrepreneurs developing because of the tourism industry. If the area is around a particular attraction, most of people can grow as small entrepreneurs to be well-known entrepreneurs to become formal businesses. Small businesses find an opportunity to grow, and also triple BE become a part of promoting those small businesses within those areas, maybe that are having some attractions. Tourism also offers internal opportunities in the informal sector. People can start their very own establishments in those areas where there are attractions. They can be street vendors, they can be producing craft, etc. They can become traveling and accommodation agencies that can simply help in a form of a business. So informal businesses are established, most of them are established because of the tourism. Local products are well known and marketed internationally. Because of the international tourism, in the area, if we have a particular attraction that is popular, our local product can be known and marketed abroad, because now foreign tourists come and buy them. As they go, they even remember them, they come back and try to enjoy them. The direct spending by tourists is a great motive for business to produce even more goods and services. It simply increases profit and revenues earned by local businesses. We continue. The government. How does the government benefit from tourism? We know that the tax revenues earned by the government become, create a great, what we call redistribution by the government. The income spent through tourists, and there is a tax involved in that. Flight tickets are having some tax being involved, and that positively affect the government revenues. Levying taxes help the government to recover external costs. So as taxes are levied on tourism, the government can also be able to recover the negative externalities that have happened after that particular tourism activity. Tourism earns the country foreign currency. We know that with foreign tourists flowing into the country, the government will be earning the foreign currency. Jobs created by the tourism industry in both formal and informal sector is the burden on the government. Remember, the government is fully responsible to do what? To create full employment. But if tourism industry is doing much of job creation, that relaxes or ease the burden on the government shoulders. As for the full employment, we know that we are facing the high level of unemployment in South Africa, but with the tourism being involved to create more jobs, that have led to the government not facing huge burden on creation of jobs, but the tourism industry intervene and create those job opportunities that the government should be creating for local people. Tourism serves as a motive for the government to increase infrastructure development. We know that as the tourism activities increases, that put the government under pressure to improve various facilities that are necessary for tourism to occur. We talk about airports, we talk about railways are improved, we talk about roads are improved to connect one province to another. So that alone is very much important, and it encourages the government to invest the most on the infrastructure, which benefit the society at the same time and also benefit the tourism industry at the same time. So it acts as a greater motive. The infrastructure. We know that if ever the infrastructure is not enough or is deficient in the country, tourism activities will also be declining. But if ever it improves, it can allow the growth of tourism industry. Adequate and well-maintained physical infrastructure is essential for tourism destinations. The infrastructure is normally shared between the residents and visitors. So the government has prioritized economic infrastructure, including elements such as harbors, beaches, lake access to promote growth in tourism. It is very important for the government to ensure that the connection from one place to another is easy. Infrastructure that is basic for tourism is made available and is modernized so that it can attract various or large number of tourists into that particular area. Most corridors have tourism as an important focus area. Public-private partnerships are often used for the development of the infrastructure, whereby the private sector join forces with the government and the private sector provide the infrastructure on behalf of the government, while the government is providing financial resources. Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge is a local knowledge that is embedded on culture and social norms. That's a knowledge that was used by indigenous people for living. It can also be used economically, and it's been modernized so that it can earn income. It is transferred from one generation to another. This is the knowledge that needs to be preserved as a treasure of the current and future generation. If ever indigenous knowledge can be lost, our future generation will not be informed of our social norms and values. Indigenous knowledge has been economically used in the modern society. It has economic wealth. It has been transferred from being used indigenously. It has been transformed to the manner that can generate economic activities. Culture, storytelling, food preparation, traditional medicine, and farming have huge impact on South African tourism industry, because people can simply move from their own places to other places just for the sake of indigenous knowledge. So the following is just an example. The same thing has been presented before. Now it's an example on how you can simply write an essay on the benefits of tourism. So there will always be an introduction. So where you define tourism to say it occurs when people travel from their usual places to unusual places for not more than a period of 1 year, that is 2 months. Or you can say the activity can be regarded as tourism if tourists leave their usual places to unusual places, spending a night away, traveling distances of not less than 160 or of more than 160 kilometers from usual places without any expectation of remuneration or a payment on the trip. That can be some of examples of what you call introduction. So gross domestic product, we have spoken about the contribution. So you need to note, if ever there were no subheadings, they simply say discuss benefits of tourism, you will be credited for writing this subheading of gross domestic product. That will be 1 mark. And then ensure that as you write your point, it is in the full sentence so that it can worth 2 marks. Provision of the example will also give you a mark in there. Remember that we have what we call 8:18 principle, whereby lower order is 8 marks in the main part, where you can list and give examples, and then the content discussion worth 18 marks, where you break down the content now in detail. That's where we say we need full sentences. As you see, tourism has the biggest impact on the service industry that has been mentioned. Indirect contribution, direct contribution, and tourism impact more on service industry than on agriculture and manufacturing, although there's an upstream effects for agriculture to provide food for tourism industry, and manufacturing to produce vehicles and other goods for the tourism industry. And then we spoke about indirect contribution with percentages that were contributed by tourism industry, especially in developed and developing countries. And then speaking about the contribution of 67% percentage contribution in GDP in 2011 by the tourism industry. Direct contribution also was spoken about, whereby we spoke about it, the 2010, whereby inbound tourism contributed about 69 billion, and then added together with domestic tourism, it contributed about 168 billion, which in total, it was about 3% in South African GDP of the country. And then tourism in there contributed about 7% in South African GDP. And then employment, speaking about the contribution of 7% of tourism industry in South African workforce, and then also with the direct and indirect employment created by tourism is a part of 2 marks. Then the sector contributing 7%, or being the largest of job creator, because we say it provides immediate employment. And then we also talk about it as being very much labor intensive. It employs most of people than employing machinery and equipment. So this is how you are supposed to answer as you provide your essay in detail. I don't know, but this is one of our very important essays for this academic year of 2022. Employment continues, whereby We talk about skills now to say it employs variety of skills, which can be skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled, and also different skills level that are employed does not focus on one skill like manufacturing sector. Variety of skills are employable in tourism industry for different duties in there, whereby people will be working in accommodation, hotels, restaurants, some being marshals or tour guides, some conserving environment, some preserving resources. And then also we spoke about provision of immediate employment by tourism. So in a full sentence, then you get your full marks. Then entrepreneurial opportunities created by tourism industry. We also spoke about that. The poverty, how does it result to poverty or affect poverty? We know that with the tourism industry, there will be poverty alleviation because of disposable income earned by people as they get these jobs. So opportunities are created through the tourism industry. So these are some to say it allows people to share the benefits of tourism, promoting more balanced, sustainable development. Also, tourism provides alternative to urbanization, so people can refrain from moving from rural areas to urban areas because opportunities are made available within their very own local areas. It offers opportunities to diversify sources of income, so people can simply depend on various sources of income, not mainly on being employed at times. Also, they can become what you call business people. They can start their very own businesses. They can be entrepreneurs under informal sector. Then allowing them a stake in the whereby they can have their own small businesses that can allow them. Some of them can start businesses in a form of transport and accommodation. Some can be retailers. Some can simply become street vendors, and then also empowering them. People get opportunities to be trained, or on duty or on job, so which allows them to be well informed and also become more marketable even for future. And then it creates partnerships, so it allows local people to join forces with registered business or formal businesses where they will be distributing for them their goods that have been produced. Externalities. We spoke about the fact that it is having both negative and positive externalities. So positive externalities were mentioned to say that when jobs are created, infrastructure is developed, and also there is a poverty relief in the area. Negative externalities, we spoke about situation whereby people of the area will find themselves having to pay more for goods and services because of high demand, whereby businesses will try to accommodate themselves and increase their prices because of increased demand, because the area is regarded to be a tourism destination that affect local people negatively because they find themselves paying a lot of money for goods and services. Then also it leads to the negative externalities also because some people can leave their carbon footprints. Littering can increase. The congestion in the particular area can lead to environmental stress in the short period of time at the same time. So that can lead to environmental degradation or environment losing its value. So this is the list of positive externalities: attracting large revenues for the country, leading to improvement of the infrastructure, stimulating employment indirectly, and then also helping to conserve resources, also alleviating poverty. These are negative externalities, can cause environmental damage if it's not well managed, and also it can result to increase in waste within the area. Infrastructure can be under pressure and can be disrupted, and also lead to increase in prices for locals. Environment. So we have already spoken about the fact that it can lead to the permanent restructuring on the landscape if ever there's an improvement in the infrastructure, such as roads are being built and also hotels are being built, that can lead to the restructuring of what we call landscape. And then also there might be more of additional waste that can lead to environmental degradation, and then also that can lead to environmental stress. The loss of wildlife or species because of hunting. People can hunt in the area as it can be regarded as a part of tourism, whereby they do what we call rhino poaching. If ever they overdo that in a form, if ever it's legal, the hunting is legal for that particular that particular species, those particular species, that can maybe they can overhunt, they can do more and collect more of those animals, which can lead to them being in danger of extinction. That can be bad for the what we call environment. So it can be affected negatively because we can end up losing flora and fauna within the environment. Those that are in danger of extinction can be affected. Effect on population dynamics, migration and change in population density in response to the needs of the tourist site. So people might be flowing into the particular destination in large numbers, while the area is not good enough to hold the large number of people. Investment, we spoke about this, that investment will be improving. Transport infrastructure will be improved, communication will be improved, energy will be improved because of tourism, including some basic services. And then the additional part. South Africa can promote tourism industry by improving marketing and advertising. If ever they can do most of advertising and marketing, that can allow domestic tourism to be encouraged through increased advertising, TV magazine program like Shortlife inform people about local places of interest, promoting special holiday packages that can attract people to flow into the area. Special off-season rates make it possible to enjoy cheap holidays. And enhancing efficiency of tourism information outlets. Many towns have informed outlets that supply pamphlets and information about specific area that can lead to them being very much promoted. And then distributing information booklets, awareness, and offer transport to visit places. Some accommodations will always offer the transport for people to talk from one place to another as they visited the accommodation. Improving infrastructure, a greater variety of using new technology to provide a reliable infrastructure that can accommodate even foreign people. So infrastructure should be modernized and civilized. Government effectively managing its tourist sites and other tourist attractions. Maintenance, upgrading, and security, etc. That was for 10 months as a part of additional part. Remember, conclusion can be any higher order response. Tourist expenditure is real as other consumer spending, and international tourism can, in addition, be seen as an invisible export because they buy goods from South Africa and live with them. So, and then that was for 2 marks. All in all, we have 40 marks for the essay. Now we move to the environmental sustainability. So the topic we are studying is also very long. Let's see how far we can go, but surely we'll complete. Like I've said before, I gave you a brief to say if we talk about environmental sustainability, we talk about the act of taking care of the environment, keeping it at the present value even for future generation, taking some measures that are very much protective to the environment, protecting the existing environment and taking care of it so that it cannot lose its value. That is done to ensure that whatever that we own and we have today that provide for us can be kept at the present value, can be used in a manner that is sustainable, so that it cannot be destructed, it cannot be depleted also, because some of the resources we have are in danger of extinction. They cannot be recovered that once they get to be depleted. So environmental sustainability concept, protecting or safeguarding the present value of the environment, it is very much important or necessary. Keeping the environment at the present stage is very much important. We call that to sustain the environment. As much as we use it, but we use it in a sustainable way. We don't disrupt it, we protect it. The sustainable use of the environment has an effect of, a sustainable and unsustainable use of the environment have an effect of the loss of biodiversity. So if ever we talk about loss of biodiversity, we mean we are leaving those what we call plants and animals that we interact with that are very much important for our living. If we lose them, some of them cannot be recovered once we lose them. So it is very important to ensure that environment is used in a sustainable manner. Some natural resources are non-renewables, meaning they cannot be recovered that once they are used up. They are in danger of extinction if they are not used in a sustainable manner. Therefore, they need to be protected. So introduction of toxic substances, meaning now polluting the place to the environment, result to pollution and create environmental stress. If ever we introduce some toxic or harmful substances into the environment, that can lead to environmental stress and that can degrade the value of the environment. Chemical and hazardous waste, this will be discussed also. As well as the radioactive material have an effect of killing plants, animals, and human if wasted into the land, water, and ecosystem. If chemicals are thrown into land or inside water, that can simply lead to people dying, animals dying that are using that water. Also, plants cannot be irrigated using that water because now it's harmful. Hazardous waste, that's when you introduce a very much toxic material into land that take time to decompose, that lead to the environment being under pressure and cannot be productive as usual. And then radioactive material leaking to the environment can cause environmental stress and lead to the environmental degradation. Environment can lose its value, cannot function normally if ever these kinds of materials are wasted into the environment. And then the state of the environment. In there, we talk about different kinds of pollution: land pollution, water pollution, and air pollution. We know that human activities and business activities are the ones that are causing all of these kinds of pollution. Land pollution, we do cause pollution on our own by littering in some areas that are not designed to waste them. And then also businesses do that by wasting their used material without recycling into the land. That leads to what? Land pollution. It is very much dangerous because it leads to the environmental stress and environmental degradation. Air pollution, caused by the burning of fossil fuel, caused by various machines that are burning fossil fuel, and which will be leading to the loss of ozone layer, and also resulting to the what we call the damage of ecosystem. Water pollution, that's when we simply throw materials or chemicals, or maybe even running sewage into water, that lead to water being unhealthy for animals, people, and plant. The state of the environment continues. So in there we have the likes of erosion. Remember, erosion occurs when the topsoil is removed because of the speed wind or because of flood water. And then what happens? The topsoil is removed away to the point that it will be difficult for the land to cultivate or grow something. Deforestation, this one occurs when trees are cut permanently without being replaced in a particular area. A desertification that happens when the grass or the grassland is removed to the point that the land becomes a desert area, to the point that very little can grow in that particular area. It becomes infertile. Climate change, we talk about the sustained and unpredictable change in weather patterns, high temperatures, floods, etc. That is known to be climate change, which can result to what? Can result to maybe declining crop production. Also can lead to less production of food, can lead to food stress, and also can hamper food security. It can lead to less supply of food and malnutrition. Then we talk about conservation. If we talk of conservation, we talk about the sustainable use of and management of natural resources such as water, air, wildlife, and earth deposits. Whenever we take care of existing resources or natural resources so that they can be useful even in future, whatever that they are able to provide us, they can also be able to provide the future generation. That is known as to conserve. Conservation involved the official supervision of natural areas, including their vegetation, soil, animals, rivers, and other natural resources, in order to protect them through wise management. Whenever resources can be used in a wise manner that is sustainable, we call that a conservation. Human activities causes pollution and overutilization of the environment. So conservation is necessary. It will ensure that we keep enough resources for future generation. As we have some activities within the environment, we can overconsume some resources, and then we can damage some resources. Therefore, it is very much important for conservation awareness to be created, so that we use these resources in a wise manner, that they can be protected and keep on being reproductive within the environment, so that even the future generation can find the benefit that we are enjoying today on the environment. The conservation continue. Conservation applies in both renewable and non-renewable resources. So resources should be well maintained. They should be used in a manner that is not is not over-consuming, is not also leading to the depletion of a resource. As much as a resource can be renewable, it should not be over-consumed because we believe that it is renewable. It should be protected and be used in the wise manner. The conservation of renewable resources aims at to ensure that they are not consumed faster than they can be replaced. Some of the resources can be replaced, but they take time. For instance, foresting. If we overconsume a certain foresting, that will lead to us taking time to get it back, because it takes a long period of time for the forest to be ready for being used again. Conservation of non-renewable resources aims at to ensure that sufficient resources are kept even for future generations. Conservation is undertaken in national parks, transfrontier conservation areas, botanical gardens, nature reserves, marine reserve, world heritage sites, biosphere reserves, reptile and butterfly sanctuaries, museums, buildings of special architectural and historical interest. And then we move to preservation. So Also, you cannot separate conservation to preservation. They are very much linked. So preservation is defined as any strategy undertaken to safeguard the environment, maintain its current condition, and keep it habitable as possible for people and animals. It is the same thing as to ensure that it is used in a manner that is not destructive, so that it remain habited and it remains in the present value, so that even in future it will be available for those people that will be there. It contains elements of environment that are threatened with extinction. Those elements that are threatened to be overused or completed in a way that they cannot be recovered, and means to keep something intact, keeping it healthy and habited even for future generations. Ecological system: an indigenous forest, a wetland, a river mouth ecosystem, species of animals, birds or plants on the verge of extinction should be preserved. So all of those resources that are on the verge of extinction should be preserved so that they can last longer. For instance, in South Africa, there was that awareness of rhino poaching that helped a lot to reduce the high level of rhino poaching. That was the part of ensuring that they remain intact even for future generations, because if that awareness was not created, they will be overused and they will be gone completed within the country. If they are not preserved, they are lost forever and they will never be recovered. We are talking about those species, the flora and fauna. An increase in human population lead to an increase in the demand for animals, which lead to animal extinction. Remember, most of what we get, especially meat, we get meat from animals. So if ever the population increases, the demand for meat increases. Therefore, there should be much of slaughtering for animals. Some of them can be depleted. They are in danger of extinction. They cannot be recovered, some of them also. The market, public sector intervention, and public sector control. These are measures to sustainability. So let's check the market itself. So this is a remember. So the market is driven by self-interest. We know that. They are all about themselves. They want to generate more profit. It overconsume resources without considering the damage it causes. So the market overconsume resources. They don't consider the negative effect they cause into the environment. They consider the profit they make. The market considers the environment as an asset to be used for its own benefit. To be used, they consider it as a common resource that can be used to generate more revenues or income or profits. Sustainability is achieved in the free market only to the extent that resource prices rise as they become scarce. So, meaning, if ever the resource becomes very much scarce in the economy or in the environment, the price also increases and then less available. And through the development of eco-friendly machines, it can also be achieved if ever technology that is used is very much eco-friendly or environmental friendly. It does not harm or burn fossil fuel or destroy the environment. Technology is a problem to the environmental degradation, since machines used are burning fossil fuels. However, it can be used as a solution to the problem, because if ever business or the market can adopt to the latest technology, for instance, using what we call the solar energy, for instance, using avoiding using the coal grounded electricity, but using electricity that's derived from solar, also ensuring that within the country businesses are using eco-friendly machines, not those ones that are burning fossil fuels. That can be very much helpful because now environment cannot be very much affected. Technology can, however, be used as a solution to environmental problems if industries adapt to eco-friendly machines and methods. The market continues. Reasons why the market failed to ensure sustainability. Let's see. The market sees environment as a common resource, meaning the market sees environment as a resource that can be used for it to generate profits and revenues. Elements such as air pollution caused by factories cannot be stopped without restrictive policies. So there should be state intervention to impose some policies as a part of restrictive policy, so that we can be able to, or the market can be able to do what, to produce less pollution. Lack of knowledge, businesses cause damage without realizing that they are causing damage. E.g., companies making aerosol cans such as spray and deodorants, and did not know the damage damaging effect they had on the ozone layer. They produce something for the sake of helping one individual without causing the negative effect of that particular spray into the environment. Carelessness. People continue with harmful practices and leave future generations to worry about the consequences. People keep on being careless about the environment, wasting into the environment, etc. So that is causing what you call environmental to be very much unsustainable. The market continues. Optimum market decisions. So market mechanisms have failed when market forces fail to produce the desired result of the environmental sustainability. The market mainly focus on making profits, demand and supply. So they don't consider the effect and negative impact caused in the market. All costs and benefits are not captured in the market prices. The future cost of the resource disappearing is not often considered. So they don't consider that the resource can be depleted in future. They consider the present, that you are making the profit as a business. Then now we talk about the state intervention, whereby the government intervene to ensure sustainable development within the country. So the state can intervene by offering property rights, because we believe that people always take care of what belongs to them according to conservationist, and then pay for environmental use. People are paying for the usage of the environment. We will discuss that. Levying for environmental environmental taxes. That's when businesses are paying for burning fossil fuels, and then also government offers subsidies, environmental subsidies to businesses or organizations that are sustaining or protecting the environment. We talk about issuing marketable permits, and then also command and control policies, where we talk about quality standards and quantity standards. We talk about voluntary agreements, whereby businesses decide to volunteer and be engaged with the government on how to sustain the environment. Also education, having creating awareness across about the importance of sustaining the environment. So property rights. So property rights are permissions given to people as primary owners of land. It is given in a form of title deeds to guarantee people that they are in possession of that particular area, because now it is believed that people always take care of things that belong to them. So if ever a particular area has been given to you, either as an individual or business person, you will be able to protect it. So that's why they are given property rights. To prevent flora and fauna species from becoming extinct, people are granted property rights as they agree to preserve the flora and fauna. Property rights can be expanded to common goods, such as clean air, because if ever they are given to people in that particular area, those people will be taking care of the environment to the point that there is no pollution that is caused. The Kyoto Protocol is an international agreement whereby developed countries pay developing countries for their right to pollute. And then we continue, we talk about environmental charges. That's when the government charge people for the use of the environment. The pricing of the environment is one method used by the government to impose environmental charges. This means the government levies a fee on consumers and producers for the waste, solid, liquid, and gas they produce and dump in the environment. In South Africa, local authorities levy charges from rubbish collection or sewage disposal and on household businesses and others. So in developed countries, emission charges are levied on industries and vehicles owners for discharging gases. So when we talk about paying for the use of the environment on the environmental charges, we talk about when the government is charging people for maybe collection of rubbish and also the sewage system that is paid in a monthly basis to the local municipality. The best result is obtained if these charges are proportional to the waste produced. So the best result can be achieved if ever charges that are imposed are equal to the waste that have been produced by an individual. However, we cannot achieve that because charges are made flat at times. They don't even weigh the pollution you have caused as an individual, but they can do for business, especially on what we call marketable permits. A pictorial charge such as monthly or yearly tax by contrast will not encourage waste producers to reduce their waste, since it will not save them any money. So in this case, if ever the charge remains fixed for the particular period of time to everyone, that will mean even people that are producing most of pollution will never see a necessity to do what, to reduce their pollution, because the amount remains flat. But if ever the pollution caused can also inform the amount that should be charged on the pollution, businesses can reduce the amount of pollution they cause into the environment. Environmental taxes, now we talk about them whereby the government intervenes by charging what we call the green tax or carbon taxes to businesses that are causing pollution. Environmental taxes are taxes imposed on the output of goods that generate generate externalities to the environment. These are called the green taxes or carbon taxes. So if ever the business is burning fossil fuel, the government will be charging them will be charging either the product that is produced through pollution and also charging the pollution itself. That can lead to the government being able to recover the external costs that have been caused by the business. Carbon dioxide emission from wineries and vehicles tires are also taxed. The tax rate is equal to the marginal external costs that have been caused by the individual or the business. In this case, the product already has a price, and the tax has an effect of increasing the price even further. The market will determine the price, and then the government will intervene with the environmental tax on the product because it's been produced through pollution, and that will lead to the price being very much increased. Environmental subsidies that are given or granted by the government to businesses that are acting responsible to sustain or to protect the environment. The government subsidizes new technology that saves energy, such as energy saving light bulbs or solar geysers. Environmental subsidies serve as a motive to business to be involved in order to keep on protecting the environment. So those individuals or organizations or businesses that take care of the environment are subsidized to encourage them to keep on doing that. Environmental subsidies have an effect to encourage production of environmentally friendly substitutes such as unleaded petrol, to encourage recycling of waste such as plastic bottles, cans, and cardboard. They can be reused instead of being wasted into the environment. Marketable permits. In this case, we talk about licenses given by the government to businesses as a right to pollute in the environment. So it allows them to cause pollution to the certain degree. A business will cause pollution according to the permit it owns to cause pollution. And businesses have a right to sell their own permits to other businesses if ever they possess more. In South Africa, the marketable permits are issued by the Department of Mineral and Energy. That's the department responsible to issue marketable permits. If a government wants to reduce pollution over time, the permits can be designed to reduce the amount of permitted pollution every year. So the increase in prices for marketable permits can result to the decrease in pollution amount in the environment. Meaning, if prices for marketable permits are increased by the government, a business will find it expensive, so they will buy few rights to cause pollution through marketable permits. Command and control policies. In this case, we talk about the state intervening by legislation and some rules and regulations to have a control over environment. The government enforces policy by setting maximum levels of emissions of pollution. And then most developed countries have regulation that control air and water pollution. There are three approaches of CAC or command and control policy. We have the quantity standards, which talks about the amount of pollution caused. So these methods focus on amount of pollution caused irrespective of their environmental impact. We have quality standards. This is all about the effect on the environment. These methods focus on environmental impact of pollution emitted, the pollution caused by the particular business, how much effect does it have on the environment. That is known to be a quality standard. And then we have social impact standards, where now we talk about the effect of emitted pollution into the society. How much impact does it have in the society? That one is known as the social impact standards. Voluntary agreements. That's when we talk about the government having some agreements with some businesses or organizations. Normally, businesses prefer voluntary than being enforced, because with the voluntarism, they can always negotiate with the government. So the government concludes agreements with businesses on a voluntary basis to cut pollution rather than enforcing them. Such agreements may involve a formal contract and therefore be legally binding, or they may be informal contract whereby businesses have a right to negotiate whatever decision that has been made. Businesses prefer voluntary agreement because they are not enforced. They allow them to do what? To negotiate with the government. Education. In this case, we talk about the creation of awareness about sustaining environment. So education is used to try to change people's attitude towards environment. It is very important that the current generation is well educated about the importance of the what we call of the environment, because if they cannot be educated, they will not see the importance of protecting the environment. They will not find the benefit of sustaining the environment even for future generations. But if ever the awareness created by educating people, creating awareness over the curriculum, that will allow the current generation even to be informed, that will inform even the future generation about the importance of the sustained environment. Innovative approaches have been tried in the developing world to educate people, e.g., setting up community wildlife reserves. If children and adults were made more aware of environmental issues and the consequence of their actions, then their consumption habits would become more environmental friendly. They would not be over consuming resources or natural resources because they know the effect of getting those resources depleted. Education plays a major role in improving people's capacity to manage environment. If people are well informed about conservation and preservation, they start to take care of what is around them in terms of the environment, and that have a great impact even in the future, because the environment remains sustained and it is used in what we call sustainable manner that is not destructive. Environmental awareness is integrated into the curriculum to create the society that is well informed about the environmental importance. So if environmental awareness is embedded or attached in the curriculum, then it creates the future generation that is well informed about benefits of the sustained environment within the society. So it is very important that education is used to create awareness of the importance of environment. People must know the benefit they gain from the environment, and they must know the importance of sustaining the environment, because we interact with it. Without environment around, we cannot survive because we need it. We get oxygen in those animals, we get water through nature. So most of the things, food we get is coming from the soil, which is a part of the environment. So it is very important for us to take care of the environment so that even in future it can keep on being productive for future generations. And then we move to the third part, which is international problems and measures. So these problems are as follows. We talk about the loss of biodiversity, the chemical waste, hazardous waste, climate change, and the loss of indigenous knowledge. These are international problems that we are facing internationally. Each and every country is having this problem. So let's look at details in there. So environmental problems are global problems because pollution from motor vehicles and the greenhouse effect have an impact in the entire world. The air pollution caused in South Africa can spill over to another country that is neighboring to cause what we call the climate change and global warming. So the problem caused by one country environmentally can spill over to another country negatively. Polluted air and water move from one country to another, and if the ocean is polluted in certain country, it can affect other world countries because it is flowing from one country to another. The world's biggest concerns are the loss of biodiversity. That's when now we are losing what we call plants and animals. And then toxic and hazardous waste, having the waste introduced into the environment, leading to environmental stress and the loss of biodiversity. Those are the major concerns internationally. It has led to the governments committing themselves to hundreds of multilateral environmental agreements. So agreements will be explained that were agreed upon by different governments from different world countries to ensure that the environmental problems are simply removed or they are reduced. The pollution that is caused is also reduced. Burning fossil fuel is reduced. There is a list of those agreements that were made or agreed upon by various world countries. So biodiversity loss, we call this one the loss of biodiversity. So this is whereby we lose the plants and animals, flora and fauna dies completely because it is not protected. If species become extinct or die out completely, they cannot be recovered. Modern techniques such as gene transplants can limit the loss of species that are endangered. The Convention and International Trade in Endangered Species sites set many policies to deal with species lost. There are some policies that were set or that were agreed upon to ensure that species lost is well managed. Preventing biodiversity loss results in species lasting longer even for future generations. So the main focus here, you need to ensure that you understand what is meant by the loss of biodiversity. We talk about losing some species, losing some plants and animals that we interact with that are in danger of extinction. If something is in danger of extinction, that means it can be completed forever and can never be recovered. That's the main concept. Some plants and animals are in danger of being lost forever because of our activities as human beings and businesses. Illegal hunting, unlimited fishing, and unregulated deforestation endangers lives of plants and animals on the environment. So this is one of the reasons for the loss of biodiversity. Illegal hunting, unlimited fishing, and unregulated deforestation. It is leading to the loss of species that we need in the environment. And then the chemical waste. In this case, we talk about the very much dangerous waste, which, if it can be wasted into groundwater, it can result to the death of whoever that will be using that water as it comes out. And also, if it is wasted into a running river or dams, it can lead to what? It can lead to animals dying and plants also dying that are cultivated or irrigated through that water. People that are using that water can also die through chemical waste. It is a very much dangerous poisonous waste that can kill plants, animals, and human beings. Chemical waste is toxic. It has a negative effect on living beings and can cause infertility or death. Chemical waste needs to be carefully managed to ensure it does not dip into groundwater. The chemical waste results in immediate death, for example, from insecticides or pesticides, death after the time period due to digestive incapacity, nerve malfunctioning, tissue degeneration, cancer, and infertility of human, animals, or plants. The Stockholm Conference is United Nations agreement to limit chemical waste. So chemical waste is a very much toxic or dangerous waste that can simply kill immediately. It can destroy plants, animals, and human beings. If ever it is wasted into water, it becomes more dangerous because water will flow from one place to another, and animals and plants will be using that water. Human beings will be using that water. Irrigation system will be taking place to irrigate plants, and they will die because of what we call the chemical waste. And then we talk about the hazardous waste. If we talk about hazardous waste, we refer to the waste that is very much toxic. If wasted into land, it takes time to decompose in the land, and it is very much dangerous. It can kill and destroy nature. Hazardous waste is highly toxic. It has a slow decomposition rate. It stays poisonous for a long period of time. If wasted into the particular area, it can stay for a long period of time being poisonous and can kill those who interact with around. The more hazardous or dangerous waste is radioactive. That's when the liquid is leaking into the environment from the nuclear power. The Basel Convention is an international agreement to manage nuclear waste. South Africa is signatory to the agreement, meaning it's signed as a part of members that agree on to reducing hazardous waste. And then we continue with the climate change. Now we know that climate change is a sustained change in weather patterns or unpredictable change in weather patterns. Global warming primary cause the climate change, and then climate change can be reversed through widespread international cooperation, e.g. sharing weather information and weather patterns, agreeing on limit pollution, and banning chemical products such as greenhouse gases that damage ozone layer. The Kyoto Protocol of 1997 is an international agreement to limit the production of greenhouse gases or greenhouse emissions because voluntary reduction of carbon dioxide levels did not succeed. And then we continue the loss of indigenous knowledge. In this case, the outcry is on the loss of the knowledge that was used back then, which is very much important even now. The concept is on the fact that as people leave rural areas to urban areas, they become more modernized and urbanized. They leave that traditional ways of living, those traditional ways of living that were used, and they were also environmental friendly as compared to now. So indigenous people have a lot of knowledge about the natural environment, which they use to make living. Indigenous people traditionally use organic methods and natural processes. They did not use any chemicals for their plants. They used natural processes. Even their fertilizer was just natural. So it's unlike now in the modern society, chemicals are used which are having negative impact, but the manner in which they used to do things for their self-sufficiency and they were producing food through agriculture and farming, it was mainly natural. So that knowledge is very much important to protect the environment going forward. As indigenous people lose their habitat or are urbanized, this knowledge is disappearing and is being lost in the world forever. Local capacity building is very important for the environmental sustainability of indigenous people, e.g., finding ways for them to earn a living in their traditional environment. So the concern here is on the loss of indigenous knowledge. It is being lost slowly but surely, and at time it will never be recovered. It is very important because indigenous people are having those means that are not using any chemical to ensure that as they become productive in the environment, they are also sustainable. So that knowledge is getting lost a bit by bit because people are getting to be modernized and urbanized. And then major international agreements. Remember, that was an essay. So the agreements that were taken upon are as follows. Here is the list of agreements. So what would be the need here? You must be able to know their success and the failure. In case the essay on the sustainability comes in, mostly it's all about evaluation of one of these agreements. Or you can come across evaluation in the 8 marks question, which can be 4.5, 3.5. And then you can also come across 8 marks question in the discussion. Also, it can also be a part of your cartoons in there, or the data response question where you have to answer for 10 marks, or even lower order where you have to mention some of them. We talk about Rio de Janeiro Summit, Johannesburg Summit, Rio 10, Rio 20, Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals. This is the list of those. We talk about also the Stockholm Conference, etc. So there are some details on them here that I won't focus most on them because of time, but as we are sharing the screen, you will be able to note some of them. We have Johannesburg Summit, which was hosted in 2002 in Johannesburg. So the main aim was on poverty eradication, alleviation of poverty, changing unsustainable patterns of consumption, globalization, health and environmental development. And then Rio 20 Summit, also known as the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, which was held in Brazil. The main issue was sustainable growth and poverty eradication without damaging the environment, meaning sustainable development in there. It was agreed that a green economy would be one of the tools for sustainable development, meaning using the technology that is not harmful into the environment. Also being very much sustainable as we produce more, but we cause less pollution into the environment. That goes to the green economy. Sustainable development goals, covering economic, social, and environmental aspects, will replace the DMG for 2013. And then Kyoto Protocol. The conference held in 1997 in Kyoto established legally binding obligations whereby industrialized countries agreed to reduce their emission of 6 gases in the environment. So we talk about Millennium Development Goals, whereby communities depend on healthy ecosystem to survive, eradication of extreme poverty and hunger, achieve universal primary education, gender equality, reducing child mortality rates, improving maternal health, combat HIV and AIDS and other diseases, and create a global partnership for development. And then we continue at the United Nations conference, which is COP17. COP17 conference of parties was held in Durban, where the following decisions were taken: commitment to Kyoto Protocol and reducing pollution of greenhouse gases, and then a green climate fund to help developing countries to establish cleaner sources of energy, and then also an adaptation committee of 16 members to report to COP18 on the improvement of the ability of the poorest and the most vulnerable countries to adapt in the climate change, better protection and help against losses of and damages related to climate change. That was COP17. And then we go further, now we grow to COP18, United Nations Framework Convention, which is COP18. The 18 sessions of the Conference of Parties, COP18, to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was held in 26 November to 7 December in Doha, in Qatar. So the Doha Climate Change Conference laid the basis more on ambitious intentional action against the climate change in the short term, took a modest step toward the new global climate change agreement to be finalized in 2015 and enable second period of Kyoto Protocol to start in 1 January 2030. And then the Doha addressed the key concern of developing countries by agreeing to establish institutional arrangements such as international mechanism to address the loss and damages associated with the impacts of the climate change, in particular vulnerable developing countries. And then United Nations COP19 now. 19 global climate change was held in West Poland in 2013. The United Nations Climate Conference marked the step forward in the international fight against climate change. The conference agreed on the time plan countries to table their contribution to reducing, limiting the greenhouse gases or emissions under new global climate agreements adopted in 2015. It also agreed ways to accelerate effort to deepen emission cuts over the rest of the decade. And then COP20, which was held in Peru in December 1 to 12 in 2014. Countries agreed to submit their intent nationally determined contribution that is how much they will pledge to reduce the carbon pollution by 31st of March 2015 for countries ready to do so. Least developed countries and small island states were exempted for pledging, but may communicate information to low emission strategies if they wish. And then that is COP24, the next one. It was held in December 2018 in Poland. COP24 is also referred as the worldwide climate change conference. The conference objective was to have full implementation of the Paris Agreement, ensuring that the agreement that were made in Paris are fully implemented. And then COP25 took place in Madrid, Spain. 73 countries committed to net zero emissions by 2050. And then we continue with COP26, which the UK hosted the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, which is COP26 in Glasgow on 31 October to 13 November 2021. The COP26 summit brought parties together to accelerate actions towards goals of the Paris Agreement and the UN Framework Convention on the climate change, ensuring that those agreements that were made in Paris are implemented. And then COP26 objective, a source of global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within the reach. Countries are being asked to come forward with ambitious 2030 emissions reduction targets, meaning that when countries are supposed to set their own targets on how they are willing to reduce greenhouse emissions within their own countries. To deliver on these stretching targets, countries will need to accelerate the phase out of the coal, meaning they need to try to increase phasing out the use of the coal because it's burning fossil fuels, curtail deforestation, ensure that deforestation is reduced, also speed up the switch to electric vehicles, ensure that they try to adopt to the latest technology of using electrical vehicles, encourage investment in renewables instead of using non-renewable the most. And then number two, adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. The climate is already changing and will continue to change even as we reduce emissions with devastating effects. The COP26, we need to work together and encourage countries affected by climate change to protect and restore ecosystems, build defenses, warning systems and resilient infrastructure and agriculture to avoid loss of homes, livelihoods, and even lives. And then number three, mobilize finance to deliver on our two goals. Developed countries must make good on their promise to mobilize at least 100 billion US dollars to climate finance per year between 2020 and 2025, whereby they are funding developing countries that are affected. International financial institutions must play their part, and we need to work towards unleashing the trillions of in private and public sector finance required to secure the global net zero. And then work together to deliver. And then that is still COP26, which is mainly about finalizing the Paris rule book. That was those rules that were agreed upon to be implemented as direct action to tackle the climate crisis through collaboration between governments, businesses, and civil society. So our lesson was very long because we integrated two chapters together, but I believe the lesson had a great impact, and it will assist you as you prepare for the final examination that is on the way. All the best.